Hi, this is Nick Park from Evangelical Alliance again, and I'm once more reminding you that it might be Friday, but Sunday's coming. During this period of lockdown, people are trying to do things they've never done before. I think we're all having new experiences. That's true in our families. You know, I'm seeing about parents giving their children haircuts, which they've never done before. I'm seeing people trying out baking and cooking with recipes that they've never done before. And lots of people are taking on do-it-yourself jobs that they've never done before. I've been building a fence. Now, I've never built a fence in my life, and if anybody builds fences for a living, they will probably have many criticisms about the fence that I'm building. But I'm quite pleased with myself because I've never done it before. Now, yeah, I've had my moments. There was a whole load of brambles and stuff, and I tried to set fire to it and ended up setting fire to myself instead, which provided great excitement for everybody that was watching. But at least I'm trying to do something I've never done before. And in the church, we're doing stuff we've never done before. We've never been here before. This is new for so many of us. Sometimes we're making it up as we're going along. We're trying to hear the voice of the Holy Spirit. We're trying to do it excellently. We're trying to do it well, but we really are. It's a steep learning curve, and it's a learning process. Now we have a roadmap where, provided the reproduction rate and the infections and the deaths and hospitalizations continue to fall, we have a roadmap that our government has given us for how we're going to move on into the new normal, because things are not going to go back to how they were before. And church leaders in particular need to be thinking about what is this new normal going to look like. Now, we've already moved where we're no longer restricted to going within 2 kilometers of our homes, but now 5 kilometers. And as from the 8th of June, that's going to be extended to 20 kilometers. For the church that I pastor, that will be the point where we go back to filming our services, our online services, in the church building rather than having to do it in our homes, because a number of our key workers that are involved in that live more than 5 kilometers from the church building. So after the 8th of June, we'll be doing that. Now, let me just say, for us, that's not that big a deal. It's actually not that big a deal to us whether we film our services in the church building or whether we film online services in our homes. My wife will certainly be glad not to have our upstairs attic acting as a recording studio anymore, and having to tiptoe around the house whenever I'm trying to preach and stuff like that. But really, I really appreciate this, that within the evangelical movement in Ireland, we have a range of churches, and some do have a much more traditional view of church building as the house of God and as a consecrated, sacred space. So obviously for churches that subscribe to that kind of theology, moving back to film into their buildings rather than in their homes is going to be a great step and a great occasion. For ourselves, well, we've told our people 1,000 times, look, a building is just bricks and mortar. The church is all about people. So while it'll be nice to film in our church building, it's not that big a deal being able to make that transition. But probably one of the most important changes takes place at phase 3. Now, phase 3 of the reopening up of the country after lockdown takes June the 29th. And that's basically saying that people with low levels of interaction in the workplace can return to work. And that really gives a go-ahead for us as churches to start serious preparation for when we can start holding physical meetings again. Now, the date for that is obviously July the 20th, which means the 26th of July is going to be the first time we can hold physical services in our church buildings with actual people being there rather than just talking to cameras. Now, that's a long wait. But actually, it puts us at a great advantage because a lot of the stuff we've been doing, a lot of the adaptations we've had to make has been at very short notice when restrictions were brought in very suddenly. When the lockdown came in, it was announced on a Friday and it affected the way we did church on Sunday. We were going to film on Saturday in our church building and that all had to be changed. So it is a long wait, but we have the advantage to plan and to plan carefully. And another good thing that we have in our favor is this, that because other countries have been going back into church settings with social distancing, we're going to be able to learn from others and learn from their experiences and find out what works. And really, for us as churches in Ireland, probably what's going to affect things in our churches for months and even possibly years to come will be what happens between June the 29th and the 26th of July. Those 4 weeks, because that's when we can really be in our buildings and working out how we are going to do church when we open the doors up to the public. Because there's several things we need to think about. Social distancing. Now, social distancing in a church service after the starting Sunday 26th of July, after the restrictions are removed on the 20th, social distancing does not mean everybody has to be 2 meters away from everybody else. Because obviously you've got families that are living together. Family units. So what it will mean is that each family unit will have to be 2 meters away from everyone else. That's 2 meters either side, 2 meters in front, 2 meters behind. So what we've got to do between now and then, we've got to start thinking, how are we going to arrange seating in our churches to make that possible? Now, if your church is a church with few members in a large building, you're going to be okay. You can do social distancing without too much difficulty. But of course, evangelical Christianity is the fastest growing form of Christianity in our nation. And so a lot of us will not have that option. Some of us, we already do multiple services to fit people into church buildings. So we've got to work out how many people are we going to be able to fit in each service with social distancing, seating people in family groups. What is that going to look like? We're going to have to address the expectations of people that will be attending. It's no good having them just turning up on the 26th of July and then start telling them, oh, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. We have got to seriously get the message out there for several weeks beforehand, saying this is what it's going to look like, this is how we're going to have to approach it. In the same way as when you board a plane, when you used to board a plane, you would have that in-flight safety movie, giving you the instructions and everything else. We're going to have to do something of that nature to manage people's expectations for what church is going to look like once they get there. We're going to ask how many people can we accommodate with social distancing. Therefore, based on that, how many services will we have to do? Some churches will get away with just doing 2 or 3 services. But there's many churches may have to do 6, 7, 8, or even more services to be able to accommodate their congregation while still maintaining social distancing. Now, again, that's going to then say, well, what are those services going to look like? Because a pastor cannot stand and preach a full-on message 6 or 8 times on a Sunday. It is physically impossible. You'll keep it up for about 2 weeks, it'll kill you. So we've got to say, if that's what we're doing, if we're doing a number of different services, then how are those services going to look? How different are they going to look? Are we going to need to keep an online component that people watch during the week and then concentrate on those Sunday services, on the things that we can't do online? These are all things we've got to be thinking about now. How can you ensure numbers are not exceeded in each service? It may actually be necessary, if you're having to do a number of different services, to get people to book in advance. to a service, so you can prepare the seating for the number of family groups with the right number of chairs in each family group, so that you don't have people turning up and you're turning people away from the doors because you're saying, sorry, we can't let anybody else in because then we can't social distance anymore. So you got to be thinking about that. How will your toilets operate? I know that doesn't sound very spiritual, but we've got to think, there's no point having all this social distancing in our seating if people are squeezing in and breathing each other's faces and touching door handles after each other in the toilets. So we've got to think about that. Sanitizer. Make sure you're going to have sufficient quantities of sanitizer for people to use when they're entering and when they're leaving. Is there going to be a requirement about wearing masks? We don't even know that at the moment. Also, you want to ensure that your church premises are going to feel clean. So you know what? Between the 29th of June and the 26th of July would be an absolutely wonderful time for some volunteers to go into the church building and, while maintaining social distancing, paint everything that needs to be painted. Freshen the place up. Either if you've got carpet and it's looking a bit worn or a bit dirty, then either, if you can afford it, invest in a new bit of carpet or give it a deep clean and really bring it up, because it's going to make a huge difference when people walk back into church for the first time. Does the place feel clean? That's going to make a big difference as to whether they feel comfortable to keep on coming back under these new circumstances. The other thing, of course, you got to think about is young children. I pastor a church with a huge amount of young children. How are we going to get the young children to observe social distancing? We're going to have to work with parents on that. So there's a whole load to be considered here. And here at Evangelical Alliance Ireland, we want to help you over coming weeks. We're going to be sharing ideas from churches about how to deal with some of these issues I've been talking about, and others that I've not even thought about yet, but some of you are going to think about. But together, we can do this. It's going to be a new normal. Listen, if I can build a fence, even if I set myself on fire in the process, then I know that we can do church in the new normal. So praise God. You know what? It feels like Friday. It is Friday, but guess what? Sunday's coming.